Franklin, for the invitation. Happy Sabbath. I'm still beside myself thinking why I'm here this evening, because I don't know what I'm going to say, and I don't know what you expect me to say. I'm still thinking about it. I had decided never to give any public speech on my experience because I have done it once and people didn't feel too comfortable. So I just decided, well, I don't have any other story. That's all my story. So if people don't feel comfortable, I better keep it to myself. If you come to me privately, I share with you, but not in public. However, when Bila calls you, it's very difficult to say no, you know, because I love this church. So I came last night because you called me to come. Yet your numbers are quite very economical. You see, when God called Abraham, he was among his family in Mesopotamia, in the city of Ur. But he called him out and said, "Come and be independent of your family." So God God understands that to be successful, you should be independent. If you don't have the urge to be independent, it's difficult to be successful. For entrepreneurs, that's their life. Entrepreneurs don't have a good story to say. Because if you are imagining that you're going to have a very structured life, I'm sorry. That's not the life of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs' lives are very hazy. Today he's there, tomorrow he's where, troubles here. It's a bouquet of problems and a very zigzag way. So our stories are not very interesting unless you have the zeal or the urge also to want to be independent. If not, let me just talk about a few things, things that you want to hear. In entrepreneurship, there are so many ships in entrepreneurship. We have the intrapreneur. We have an intrapreneur. We have extrapreneur. You know, so an entrepreneur will be in an organization. He is an entrepreneur who is within an organization, not independent, but he has this zeal to get things done in a very unorthodox way. He's an entrepreneur, and such people, they're always in trouble with their bosses because they don't do the lay down things. They are very innovative and they want to find ways of getting things done, and bosses don't think that they were not consulted. Why are you doing, outside the structure systems and things like that? But unfortunately, he is not an entrepreneur. So when he is on his own, he cannot perform. But he can perform when he's in an organization. It's people like that. For entrepreneurs, when you have a kid at home and he's breaking your glasses, smashing your TV. When your car is parked, he will go into the car trying to drive it. You become angry. But that is the child you should watch, because he is going to be an entrepreneur, because he's very unorthodox. I mean, such are the people. It's a trait that people have. You can learn it, though. It is not easy to learn, honestly. It's a trait you should have it within yourself, and then you can use it for good or bad. Many entrepreneurs, instead of channeling their energies into good ventures, end up doing all kinds of stupid things because they have too much energy. I'm a Christian, so my line of thinking is a bit different. Typical worldly entrepreneurs are different. They do all kinds of things. Very unorthodox, very unchristian, but I mean, it is a Machiavellian mindset and justifies the means. I don't believe in that, because for me, every step, if you're a Christian in the church, you should be a Christian in your business. You shouldn't be a double standard person. We should see you all around being a Christian. You see, the Bible says, what we read, that if you want to prosper, what do you have to do? From Joshua. What do you do? We just read it, so what do you do? And then you're strong, you're courageous, and then obey. You see, you want to prosper. You are not obedient. How do you get to be prosperous? There are no quick fixes in life. That's one thing young people coming up should understand, that there are no quick fixes in life. God has not planned it that way. Psalm 1 says, "Blessed is the one that does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the stool of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth his fruit in his season. Its leaves shall not wither, but all that he does shall" what? So you see, there is a principle in the Bible that guides us into prosperity. One, keep the law of God in your heart. Meditate on it. You say you shall be like a tree. Because you see, when you are a Christian, if you don't know, maybe God will wink over it. But when you know, and you are not practicing it, and yet you expect God to bless you, then you know what you're doing? You want God to be an ATM machine. See? An unproductive, stale stuff. You just go swipe, and then you get the money, forget about him. No, God is not an ATM machine. So, if you want to prosper, you have to make sure you apply biblical principles. First is independence. That I've said. If you have the urge to be independent, then that is the first move. If you have to go by structured systems, then you may be an entrepreneur. You have to be under someone and work within an organization and do your best there. That's one thing. From childhood, maybe because my parents did not bring forth the normal way, because we are 10 years apart. So if you are 10 years you don't have a sibling, the likelihood is that you will be very lonely. Maybe that also made me to become more independent of myself. So at the age of 10 years, I quite remember, I think I was in class 6. My father also didn't have a normal education. When I was 6 years in somewhere, my dad was doing his diploma at UST, so he had left me at Wenchi in the Brown Alpha region. And before my mom knew, I was at the corn mill, you know. I was helping them at the corn mill, Nika. I was working, and then they would pay us some simpwa. Today, when I say simpwa, you don't even know what it is. But that's how they would pay me, and I just saved it. I am very thrift anyway, very, very thrift. I don't spend money at all. So I saved it, and for the first time, I was able to buy a broniwe with trousers for myself and a belt for myself. It's something I very well remember because I bought it for myself and I was so happy I've been able to buy something for myself. My dad came back and said, how could I be working there? So he stopped me. But anyway, I loved doing it. We were selling the chaff. You know, when you go to Ganika, after you've milled, the chaff that comes is for the Nikanika man. So he would sell it and he would give me some 10 pesos and things like that. It's a life of unstructured lifestyle. My mom taught me, he opened a savings account for me at that age. You know, those times, the post office had a savings account. So at Wenchi, at that time, Wenchi was even a part of the Ashanti region. And I made savings. That's when I started making savings at that age. So I think it really helped me in letting me start making savings at that very tender age. I didn't use money for frivolous things. I just put everything there and gradually, you know, build myself, buy a few things for myself, things like that. But I wasn't the one who would just use money to buy toffee and those kind of stuff. No. I wasn't into that. I saved money. It has been a culture. And when I finished my O-level at Bekwai, I remember during that short period when we had to go to sixth form, I went in for some beans farm. I went to plant beans. We were just staying here at Kwadaso. So I made some beans farm. And that's how I got some money to go to sixth form. Because my dad had traveled. And honestly, I didn't like going to my parents to ask for money. I didn't like it, so I wanted to be on my own. So I did this farm, got some money, and I went to the sixth form without any support from family. That's how I finished my school. I also planted, those who want to make some money, you can do some, popcorn farm. And you see how much money you make out of that. Popcorn, I had 2 bags, 2 mini bags, 25 kilos. I went to Roman Hill Cathedral. There was a lady there who was buying it at the Roman Hill Cathedral. There was a woman there. That's why I went to sell it. So that's how I got money to go to the university. And then in my university, I'm not going to talk MBA here. So, because after doing MBA, I know that it is a course just to make you illiterate, but it doesn't make you a business. You become illiterate because, of course, when people are talking about fixed assets and stuff, you understand. But that doesn't make you a businessman at all. That's why I'm telling you my experience. You can, make some reason out of it. In the university, completely, I did not depend on my parents. I've told you, the urge to be independent was so strong, not to depend on anyone. I made friends with the lecturers. They were making some mixtures and stuff in those years. So after lectures, I would just take some, bring it to town, sell it, make some money out of it, and then go pay them. So you see, faithfulness is also very important. I never had any money, but they will give me the goods, come sell, go pay them, and then there's little profit I'll make, I'll go and save it. And I learned this from my mom because at the age of 10 years, I had a savings book. I've lost these things. It hurts me that I didn't keep them. But the savings culture was part of me. And throughout university, unlike others, my friends from Accra, immediately we get our alawa. Those times we getting 700 cedis. And I will go to town, buy stuff, buy yam. In fact, I calculated everything. The yam tuber, I will calculate how many days I'm going to eat from that. So I will cut it into 3. This is 3 days. Eat this part. But that's how I live my life. A very thrift person. And I had to go and invite my friends to come and eat because for them, for the first 2 weeks, they finished their money. They finished it because they will go to Akoko, what's it? That restaurant at Repo. We call it Akoko Tavern. We call it some tavern, right? Cock Tavern, yes. They will get 1 beer bottle, buy a bowl of rice, they will eat it. But of course, if you are buying from the restaurant, then in a week's time, your money will get finished. But I go to town, buy my yam, buy my contumely, come and make my stew. And of course, I am a very good cook, so I didn't have problem at all cooking and stuff. I cooked on my own and ate my food, planned so that the money would take me through the month, even to go and invite them to come and eat. So that's how I lived, and by the time I finished university, I had saved 450,000 cedis. By the time I finished university, that's how much that was in 88. And that was through selling these mixtures and stuff, small. And everything that I got, I just put it in the bank. And at times I'll be happy when I go and then the interest would add on to it. It was very sweet, But that's how I grew up doing. Because I didn't have, my mom, my dad didn't have any money. They were not well-to-do at all. They were struggling. And so I didn't want to put any burden on them at all. I needed to be on my own. And having been on my own and finished university, I went to Israel. My trip to Israel was on an exchange program, and it taught me a very good lesson. The head of pharmacy was called Dr. Schechter. Dr. Schechter, and there in the hospital at Tel Shomer. Tel Shomer Hospital is the biggest in the Middle East. And they do very, very, big cases, vascular, cardiac, and, all those kind of sophisticated surgeries. And this man, we had a canteen, so we all go and eat. And when we finish eating, he would take his own bowl and bring it to the pantry. I said, wow, this would not happen in Ghana. Ghana, director, eating and bringing his own bowl to the pantry. But it taught me something about humility. And the fact that doing that does not take anything from you anyways. It doesn't. It doesn't take anything from you. So when I came back, I was working at Konfanoche and I had a whole lot of problems. You see, when you are an entrepreneur, you always have problems. Because at Konfanoche, when I came, they put me at, where was that? We call it aseptic lab. That's where we, not as these days when you have all these collapsible plastic infusions. Those times there was nothing like that. We were making the infusions ourselves at Konfanoche in bottles, glass bottles. And we had an autoclave and we had to wash the bottles and cork it and go and make the infusions. I quite remember when I came, they were just making, I think, two things. They were making normal saline and water for injection or something like that. And it was very boring to be in that kind of situation. So I worked hard, and I had problems with that because my superiors were very angry. But I mean, I just could not take it that I would come to the to the lab and just do two things. I needed to do more than that. So I forced them to go and buy me dextrose. And we had so many things. We were preparing dextrose saline, normal saline, dextrose itself, then water for it. So at least we have 4 lines of things we were doing. That made me a bit more, occupied. But it didn't come easy because I had a lot of trouble out of that because of the fact that I was being too unstructured. And whilst the superiors would not do it, a small boy who just come from university, you are too known. You know how Ghanaians are. Too known, why are you doing this? Even asking for theater boots was a problem. He asked me, I hold a theater. So, but theater boots is not because it's a theater, but because it's asepsis. So that's what I'm doing here. Yeah, I had a big problem with my people. But even whilst I was doing that, I was still doing my own, after work, quickly I'll go and do my business. Small mixtures and things like that, trying to put soul and body together. One thing I want you to know is that in life, you need to be humble and be very hardworking. And nothing is taken from you when you work hard, or even when you work in a menial job. Nothing is taken from you, apart from your own self-inflicted pride. It is only pride. That is the only reason why you wouldn't want to do menial job. But really, so what? Because you see, at Konfanoche, when I came, we had assistants and we had dispensing technicians and all these attendants, assistants, dispensing technicians, and the pharmacists. And one day, we had bottles sitting there. The place was dirty, and this is asepsis. They were just sitting there, not working. I took the brush, started scrubbing the place. I scrubbed, finished, went to clean all the bottles, clean it with the brush, with Savlon and things, finished, went to the aseptic lab, did all my infusions, came to autoclave, and I closed, and they were looking at me. It's like, that kind of stuff that Ashanti said. But Listen, they didn't know what I was doing for myself. If you ever think when you get your own job, then you can put all your energies. When you had not developed that character, forget it. Look, wherever you are working, make sure you do your best. If you don't want to work there, stop. But don't say, oh, say you'll be a Juma, and a Juma. It's an attitude. When you develop that attitude, you end up being a failure. Because when you get your own, you can never do it. Because you had not developed that character, that trait. So wherever you are working, if you are a Christian, you think that maybe management is not treating you well, or you don't feel comfortable, there's no job satisfaction, just stop it. Have no business, rather than doing business that you don't like. Right? And then cheating on them, or not putting in your best. It becomes a character. And when you are on your own, you see that you are unable to work. You do something small, you are tired. You feel lazy about it, because that is what you have developed yourself to be. Okay? So even though I was working with government, I made sure I worked very hard. I remember that there were many cases of neonatal jaundice at Confanoche. And in those days, we didn't have these incubators and stuff where, they would put them in UV light to metabolize the, bilirubin. So we were using phenobarbital elixir. But phenobarbital elixir is not something that we produce and put it there. It is extemporaneous. So once immediately you produce it, has to be used. And nobody was doing it. Ababio would go and find an innovative way of doing it. Because, we didn't have the powder for phenobarbital, but I used a tablet. I calculated and knew that, okay, I can get this. Use some, we had some powder, we call it acacia powder. And I suspended it and did it, and it was working, and the nurses were happy. When I moved from the main pharmacy to Poly, they chased me there, they had to bring it there, even though I was no longer in the main hospital. But I feel proud saying this because I was able to make an impact on people's lives. I saved some lives by that. I was very hardworking, even when I was with the ministry. Even at that time, I had also started my private business on the side. And as for John, he knows about my private business because I was staying with him. And so he knows how we started. Being in business full-time is not an easy decision because it means you have to feed yourself. You are not going to wait for monthly salaries to come. You see, when you are being paid, you can make a lot of noise. Yeah, because my salary is and hey, our allowances are not coming. You make all those kind of noise. But when you have to pay yourself, then who are you going to make the noise to? So being on my own, I wasn't alone. I was with some other friends. It was a very difficult moment, and my dad also passed away in 1997, and I had to take care of my mom, my sisters, and my family. It was not an easy time for me, but God has been faithful. But before I say this, you see, when I finished this form, I made a covenant with the Lord. I told him, Father, if you would help me and put resources in my hands, I will use it for your work. That was a covenant I made with the Lord. And I thank God he has been faithful. When you make a covenant with God, don't take it for jokes. Because you don't see God, you see, because we don't see him physically, we take things for granted. Because we say it and we think that That's it. But once you say it in prayer, it is recorded. If you don't live to it, you have your own self to blame. In doing business, it has been very tough. I would say that in life, in our culture, it's best to be alone in business. That's something I will tell you. There's a beauty in partnership. There's no two ways about it. I mean, two herds works better. But in our culture, it's very difficult. But it doesn't mean you cannot enter into partnerships. You can enter into partnerships, except that you should know exactly what you're going in for. And make sure that the documentation and shareholdings and everything is properly done. And your family is at an arm's length from your business. See, many times, it's not the partners who kill the business. It's the families. Hey, now you say, and he's bringing ideas, you know. So, for me, I would say the best is to be on your own. If you want to be in partnership, be sure that's what you want to do, and make sure your documentation and everything, everybody understands exactly what you're going in for, and your contributions are well recorded. Everybody knows. There's transparency, everything. If you cannot assure yourself of that, please, just be on your own and have your peace. So I have had bad experiences in partnerships. I worked very, very hard. I worked over 16 hours. And John knows about that. I would travel to Domahinkro, come back. You know those times when they were making the Mampong Road? I'll go to Mampong. When I come back with my VW, when I bought my first vehicle, it was a Volkswagen, the Beetle, GS 3280. I remember the number. It was already 20 years when I bought it. So you can imagine it was very old. But that's what I was using for my vehicle. For 5 years, that was what I was using. I don't believe in extravagance. You see, when you have excess money, yes, if you want to buy something for the sake of beauty and finesse and stuff, fine. But for me, it's about utilitarianism. If it is utility, that's it. If you can take me, fine. Unless I have excess. So when I buy a phone, some people, every year, they want to have a new phone. And these features and that, and you ask yourself, really, are you using all those features? What does it give you? That people will say that, oh, I am part of the elite because we are using, what's that, iPhone 12 or what? I don't know. Does it really make you anything? Remember, when you are a Christian, you cannot live your life like just any other. Because you see, for a Christian, your resources are not just about you. It's about humanity. How to help others who are downtrodden and who are also in suffering. So please, I used my phone 5 years. It's fine. I mean, it's a phone. I used to hear calls, texts, maybe WhatsApp small. But apart from that, I mean, what else? So every day you need to have a new phone. But every amount that you lose, you're not going to get it back. You're not going to get it back. And if you don't respect a cent, you can never get a dollar. I respect money. Even now. What the make 10 CDs at me rent fee? No. Why should I forget? Because 10 CDs is a lot of money to me. I would not use 10 CDs anyhow. No. And you see, I need to also state this, that to prosper is not about one thing. It's holistic. Sure. If you don't plan your life well, and you think that it's just about working, I'm working hard, I'll make the money. Your family. What kind of woman are you going to marry? How many children are you going to have? What is the spacing? These impact your prosperity you don't know. Because you see, if you don't get a right woman, you are in trouble. Your business can collapse because of marriage. It doesn't matter how hardworking you are, it will collapse. If your wife is giving you trouble, today I need that, and then say, that attitude, without peace, your business will not thrive. If you have too many kids, and they are not well spaced, it will affect your business. Because raising up children is very costly. It's an investment. It's a whole investment. So you have 6 kids. 1.5 years, 2 years. What it means is that starting life, if you are like me, who never had any money, starting life, and the little you have to use it in raising your children, where is the excess money to do the business? Because when I was young and I was going to get married, and those times when we were doing the O-level, it was 5 years. What it meant was that if I had 2 kids or more than 2 kids, and they were all in the secondary school at the same time, I was going to pay 2 people's school fees. No way. I had already planned that not 2 of them will be in the secondary school at the same time. So one had to leave before the other enters. No, this is something I consciously planned. It's not like, and see, so please, don't just live life, so loose. Plan. You have to plan. If you're going to have 2 years, and so that will be within 6 years, you have 3 kids, right? That means at SSS, you have 2 people at the same time, and we have 1 in the university. You have to know how much you are earning. If you're not careful, you cannot bring quality kids. You can't. Because it's a huge expense. It's a huge expense. And you cannot even plan to do business. How much do you have? Unless, of course, your family will support you with huge sums of money. I never had anything like that. Never. I started life when I came from Israel. I went cleaning. I was cleaning homes. In Israel, they are all cleaning homes. Because that's the only way you can get money, honestly. Is cleaning homes, or you are working in the hotel in Haifa. They go to Elat and things to work. It's terrible. But I was cleaning homes, and that's how I made about $4,000. That's how I started life, from that. So, but I could have spent it, but I never spent $1. The same shirt I sent to Israel was the same shirt I brought back. And when I came, what I bought, the only thing I bought from Israel was menthol crystals. You know menthol? I bought menthol because I was coming to prepare ephedrine nasal drops. And when I brought it, it helped me a lot because I made a lot of money out of that. So for me, it is not about shirts and I'm telling you, life is not about today, it's about the future. The Ashantis have an adage. They say, Chi-chi, so, chi-chi. You better choose which one you want. Chi-chi, so means have hard life now, enjoy in the future. Or you can enjoy now, so, chi-chi, in the future you will suffer. So you make a choice. But if you are intelligent, you will know that this is when you have the strength. So you can make with the chi-chi now. And then enjoy when you are older and you cannot do much. Because you have made more investments into the future where you can feel comfortable. Life is not about today. You need to be thrift now. No, I mean, I can eat banchi. When I used to travel, John is here. Before I was going on Sunyani stuff. I'll buy tomatoes, buy onions on the way. I'll buy all that. When I bring it home, you know how long it lasts? Instead of going to buy 2x4 tomatoes here and there, huge, put it in the fridge, it lasts a long time. Home management is, you see, that's what I'm saying, is holistic. If you're just looking at it from working hard, no. It is holistic. It's every aspect. And you need to contribute to God's work. You don't want to support God's work, but you want blessings. You go down on your knees. When you get the money, it's just about you. You see, we don't treat God well. We don't treat him well at all. We don't respect him. But if you respect God and you would support his work, he will bless you. He will bless you, because for me, I'm saying this from experience. Just live your life supporting God's work and be honest. In life, you would come to a point where you may owe. When you owe someone, please pay. Never ever have in your mind, but in your mind, you will never pay that money. Some nonsense somebody told me recently. You have taken money from a certain woman. You took money from a certain woman. And for whatever reason, now your son has finished police training, so he's a policeman. So he called me and said, I should tell the woman to forgive him of the debt so he can bring the son to church to be blessed. So I asked him, and he's kind of the wound here. Now, by real school police, all you're trying to say is that, you should forget about the debt. This is nonsense. How can you do that? How can you do that? You owe someone, you don't want to pay? How? We don't do that. Yes, we are all Christians. We want to support one another. But please, don't take people for granted. It's not right. That is unchristian. It's unchristian. When you owe somebody, it happens because you may need some money to support. When you owe, make sure and communicate. Please. In my business, I have come to understand that the beginning of every relationship, this you can write. This is one of the motivational speeches you want to hear. The beginning of every relationship is based on trust and not suspicion. You can write that. If you are dealing with someone and you are trustworthy, I can assure you, you will never have any problem. It is not because you are always forthcoming with something, but even when you cannot, you will tell the person, Minya, but these reasons, I'm unable. Please, I'm trying to mobilize something. This. Still, go, spend money, go to him and plead with him that this is the problems. You can even show him some documents so that at least the person knows you care. But you put your phone off or you put him on block so that when he calls, are you a Christian? Please, don't do that. In my life, I don't have money, but I don't need money to do business. I don't need money to do business because God has blessed me that I've been faithful, so I only use supplier's credit. I don't use money. I don't go and borrow for business. I use supplier's credit. My suppliers will give me credit, and when I sell, I go and pay them, so they will continue to give me. You will not pay, so they will cut you off, and now you have to go and look for another supplier. You'll be looking all through the world every time because you are not faithful. Be faithful. I recently went to China with Kwabna, and he can tell you, we were there just for about 5 days, but it was like we have been there for 1 year. I mean, the people treated us so well. It was amazing. Why? Because we have been so faithful to them. Everything, at any time, if I'm stopping my business with them, I stop with them on zero balance. I don't owe them. They don't owe me. That is how life should be. Some people have a difficulty in paying others. Why? What kind of Christian are you? I think I'll got a car. I think I will dream say me koto asasi bi wa ha me de kwa shakran. So people can bring their money from outside to relatives here. Oh, let me invest it somewhere here. I will get this. I'll get something from it before. Why are you doing that? We don't do that. Because you see, because you did not apply Christian principles, what happens is that the devil takes advantage of you and he will disgrace you. You know? So, pay. I have been in terrible debt before. Terrible. If I tell you the figures, you'll be amazed. But I don't know how I paid it because God paid it for me. And I made sure that when I had that debt, every money that came to me was to go and pay the debt. I didn't think about anything but to pay because I wanted to pay. I didn't cause it, but it happened. Don't start having different minds when money comes into your hands. As an divorce, you can't explain me familiar. You can't explain me their familiar. You are a Christian. If you cannot be different among your peers, if you cannot be different in the world, so how can Christ be proud of you? How? For a 7-day Adventist, it should be said that this man you can trust. Because even when he owes you, he pays. I mean, owing is nothing in business because you owe. Because you cannot have all resources. But you make sure conscientiously you make a payment or communicate. Communicate with the person. Don't be hiding. And I remember some of the people who were owing us. But when I went to a shop one day, the shop assistant told me, "Oh, the man is gone." Unfortunately for him, he was hiding behind some cupboard. And when I stretched I saw him there. So I said, let me train. But is it necessary? Why don't you just tell me, "Oh, please, I don't have the money now. Come." Just communicate. Don't disgrace yourself. Don't. And please, be honest. Be honest. And when you get money, plan with your money. I have a 3-tier approach to investment. It's a very simple thing. It's something that everybody does. We have the short term, the medium term, and the long term. Asantifo, there's something wrong with you. I'm telling you. Asantifo P. Onye esika or say, because he dying. Because for us, wealth is measured in buildings. I don't think it's a bad idea it's true that building is good. But if you have a business and you have not stabilized your business, you don't have excess, and you are taking money from the business to build, you are making a big mistake. That is the very reason why our businesses in Ashanti region are stunted. We don't have big businesses. Yes, people have money. We'll sit down by a boys' quarters. Yeah, because at a time when he needed to invest the money, rather he used it to build. And building doesn't give you money unless you are renting it or you are selling. If that is not the idea, you're going to stay in it, then this whole block and mortar takes all your capital. Where is the rest of the money to expand, to grow? If for the sake of location, you want to buy a plot of land, that's okay. But don't go and build immediately. When you have business, we build out of our profit, not from the capital. And if you're a Christian, you are paying duties, you are paying taxes, you are paying salaries, and you are giving to the Lord's work. I can bet you that you cannot make it in 5 years. You can't. It's not possible. Unless you are having, you are cutting corners somewhere. You can't. How can you make it in 5 years? You are building, you are buying cars. What kind of business are you doing? No, but imagine that the population of Ghana is 30 million, right? Half of them is below 15 years. So they are no productive. Take civil servants. I'm not insulting you, but civil servants, what's your income? You understand? I mean, if you are a civil servant, unless, of course, there are other ways you are making money. But a civil servant, how much? You take invalids, you take the aged. I can assure you that in Ghana, the viable population will be about 6 million, at best 10 million. So when you are selling a widget for $1, you get $10 million. Is that what I'm saying? Okay. But of course, there's cost to it. In the US, of a population of about 300 million, you can be sure that about, 60% of them are viable. They can easily buy $1. But in Ghana, you cannot even get 10 million to buy $1. If a widget, something is selling at $1, you can't. So when you see people having so much money, buying Maybach and whatever, today they have Rolls Royce here, they have this, they have that, you're asking yourself, what? Are you selling air? No, but I mean, listen, you are a Christian, no? You are a Christian, so you need to be very careful. Don't be competitive. God is not a competitive God. That is why John the Baptist will not survive. Because John the Baptist will not compete Christ. He had to leave the scene for Christ to take over. God is not a competitive God. Don't be too competitive. How? When I started life, I started building in 2003. When I finished school in 1988. Well, my friends, some of my friends have built houses, but at best they built boys' quarters. And you see, after a while, you don't fit into it, you don't feel comfortable. Now, you don't know whether to sell. Now you have to go and build another house. I mean, do you have to put yourself in all that mess? Take your time. Don't just, try to compete people or live your life according to people's life. No, live your own life. Me, I have never, ever been bothered about, I am just going straight with my God. When I have enough to do something, I will do it. If I cannot, I say, I'm sorry, I can't. Don't push me. I will not do it. I'm not doing this to please anyone. You see, Don't force yourself to do things just because you want people's applause. Man's applause? Let everybody say you are bad. Let God say you are good. That is good enough. Life is like that. So, I think maybe you want some questions and then we will run it up. I've been talking plenty. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening anyway. So if you have some question, maybe.
Please, I was late, so I don't know.
It's part of it.